In this lesson, we're going to talk about light in ENSCAPE, and also I prepared here a scene using different effects, including the depth of field effect, or like how to put in focus or out of focus subjects in the scene based on the camera position and on the position of the objects. Now, these are props that I got from the assets library in ENSCAPE, but you can also get like more detailed props using websites, etc., etc. I want to do a little bit of product design and the product visualization. So I've chosen here like a photographic subject, a product like a laptop, and a car. Right now we are not able to see nice and neat. We see a lot of blurriness here, and this is due to the depth of field effect. In the visual settings tab right here, so if we open this up, here we have like different types of settings, like main. So this is to adjust the exposure, or we can put auto exposure, but you can see this is like too bright at the moment. And the depth of field. So this is where you can increase or decrease the value of the depth of field. And you can see as soon as I like put 0%, that effect is going to disappear. You can see the render quality right now is at ultra. So as usual, you can work with draft and medium for the scene if you want to stay light. But then when it will be time to render, you need to go to ultra. And also when you're going to export your image, which is something also I'm going to show you in this video, you will see that it's going to look more clean and with more details. For these additional options, you need to unlock the camera from the RHINO camera. And there you go. Once you have that, you will be able to address the depth of field and also the field of view. Okay. Once you increase a little bit, you can put the autofocus. So it's going to decide where to put the focus on. Otherwise, you can choose the focal point. And you can see that line will let you put the distance between the camera and the subject so that you can put that in focus and the rest out of focus. And this changes dramatically when you have a subject that is really close and another subject that is, more far away, like this. So you can see now that we are focusing on the main subject. If you see the line there, you can see now we are focusing on the main subject, just the depth of field, and the car is out of focus. And then I can focus on the car and put the foreground objects here out of focus and the background out of focus. Okay, now that we clear this up, I want to show you like everything from the beginning. I will just restart ENSCAPE, and you can see we have a totally empty scene. So let's create our scene. And for this, I'm going to use this side, and I'm going to create a polyline. So I will snap to the grid. And I know these are centimeters, but I can fix the size of these later. So I'm just going to do like an L. I'm going to go here to the epsilon, and then I'm going to go up. So I will need to change the view, and I will go up here to the front view, or to the right view actually. I'm going to hold the shift key and go up, and then right click to exit. And then I'm going to round this corner with the fillet curve. I'm going to put a radius of 50 centimeters from here to here. And you can see that's the corner right there. And it's a pretty big background here. This is going to be like a really simple background for a photographic studio. We're going to simulate like a photographic studio. And I'm going to take these points. I'm going to go to the gimbal and set this to be aligned to the C-plane. I'm going to make this a little smaller. I can adjust this. Or you can put precise measure before. Now we're going to extrude this with the curve. Extrude curve. And there you go. So we now have this photographic studio background. And we can start to synchronize ENSCAPE. There you go. And if we see our photographic studio is done, you can see that it has like a backdrop. This is how it's called. It's kind of a background. And then it has lights all around. and this will help to enhance the subject in the middle with the highlights and shadows, etc., etc. It can be used for photographic studios, can be used for more movies and advertising a product like a chair or a car or whatever. You can use it for any product visualization. Now let's go back in ENSCAPE for RHINO, and I open up the library here. I will get this sport car, but you can pick any car you want. And also we're gonna add some subjects in there, so you can put things in favorites. You also have like really basic cars shape here if you want. And once they are in the favorite, I can just load them in. Okay, so click and drag and position that carefully. Okay, so let's use the three views. There you go. I'm gonna put it on the ground. Looks like it's rotated, so, but we can see that only on this. Let's synchronize again the views. Okay, and then rotate this. And also, I think I need to make this a little bit larger, so I can expand the backdrop a little bit more. And this is going to be our main subject that I'm going to put like some more in there. And you can see that is we are using just the environment surrounding the scene. So it's kind of simulating an exterior rendering rather than a studio, but we're going to work on that. So let's put some artificial lighting. And I want to use some models that I saw here in the library for photographic studio. So this, just to simulate a little bit that what's going to happen in a studio. So we're probably going to have a light like this, or similar, and then we have these big square braids softbox. These are to put diffuse lighting instead of like more focused lighting, like the what happens with the spotlight with the barn doors. And so you have different size. Probably need a couple of those. Oh, they usually use a umbrella softbox, like octagonal, etc., etc. So I like all of these to simulate a studio. So we're gonna start with this one here, and so I'm gonna put this into my scene, and I'm going to select it in RHINO and rotate it, like, pointing towards the subject. And this will be what is called a key light. So it's going to be the most important light. And you can put it like on one side or the other. It doesn't matter. So I'm just put it here on the right. And then I'm going to put this other one. And again, try to simulate what happens here in a studio. Okay, so that now that I have these lights, let's go in darkness. So I'm holding Shift and right click, and I'm gonna move the sun into a night scene, really, low at night. And we can see that some of the light assets, they actually emit light. So like these two, they emit light. So I'm gonna point this towards the scene like this. So we don't really have lights. This is more like an emissive material. If I open up the asset library from here and I select some of the assets that I put, I can see if there are like any adjustments or modification. You can see you cannot do anything. You cannot change like the intensity for that light from here. While, for example, if we select the car, you can see that we can change the color, and something you can do if you're not satisfied with that. Okay, now it's pretty dark, we cannot really see it, but we're gonna see it later. So I'm just gonna put here like some really strong orange color and then apply changes. So once you put the light, we can try to go in the visual settings and again adjust, take off the auto exposure, and you can see everything is total black now. So when when you use the auto exposure, it's also gonna like, create some lining for those emissive materials, some additional intensity, some additional lining. Let's put ultra here. And also, if we proceed, we have other adjustments like highlights and shadows, saturation, color temperature, if you want this like darker or warmer or colder, and then motion blur, lens blur. Now, some of these we can check this later in exterior rendering. Vignetting also will add like some shadows in the corner. Chromatic aberration, it's a pretty realistic effect. I usually bump up to, you will see that on the edges, especially when you render. So maybe I can show you here. So you can see here, you have like red and blue lines. That's chromatic aberration. Okay, it just makes things a little bit more realistic. Okay, now that we have studio here, but we don't have lights, we need to put the lights because we cannot do much in here. We can change the sun brightness, but right now we don't have a sun. We can change the night brightness, but I think I'm gonna actually put it even lower because I want to concentrate not on the exterior, but like if we are in a studio, so there is no night, there is no sky. We can adjust the shadow sharpness, the artificial light brightness. Yes, this can be helpful. You can see I can increase this a lot. Still, we cannot really, create some lighting yet. We do have some light coming from these objects, but they are not intense enough. So I'm just going to put this down, and I will add manually the lights in RHINO. So with artificial lights, we need to do that. Now for the sky, we can put a white background. So the sky will become white, or we can just clear everything up or choose another type of background. But this again works better with the exterior. So we're gonna talk about that later. And then we will adjust the clouds. This will influence the render, like especially for the reflections and things like that. But this actually works with the sky, so it's more like natural light than studio light. For the output, we're gonna talk this later on. Okay, so let's go in RHINO now. In RHINO, what we can use that is really helpful is the light panel. It's right here. Let me just make some more space for this. Okay, so in the light panel, we can manage the lights, the color, the intensity, the type. We can isolate. So it will be nice here now to also see what happens when we render in RHINO with the RHINO render. Okay, and these are all proxies, so we don't really see much except for the lining that is white and is essentially our skylight in RHINO. So if I put 0 here, we have a similar situation. We have a sun we can use, and you can see that if I activate the sun in RHINO, it's the same sun of ENSCAPE. So right now we don't want that. So now I need to go back and adjust this and put it back into a night scene all over. Okay. And so this is a white background also that we can fix in RHINO. And again, if you have problems in RHINO, there is a course in RHINO, but just showing you what you can use together with ENSCAPE. So let's go to the render and go to the panels. And here you can turn on all these panels and you will find them in here. So you have the texture. So this is the studio right now we're using. Then, starting from the beginning here, we have rendering panel, and this is the background. So if we want total black, we can go here to color picker and choose black. So now everything is total black. And then I can also change it with a gradient or 360 environment, which right now is a studio and it's black, so it's fine. And then here again, we have lining. You can use a ground plane or not, but if you have the backdrop, you don't need a ground plane. And I mean in RHINO. And then let's continue. Here you have libraries of materials. We already saw that. The ground plane, you can show it or not show it. In this case, we don't need it. And then this is the materials, and then this is the sun. This is where you can also manage the sun, the sun intensity. There you go. You can see it also in RHINO. And also you can adjust the timing and the location in the world, and the day, the year, etc., etc. So this can be helpful also in ENSCAPE. But I don't want to work with the sun again. I'm going to go into darkness. So I'm not working with the sun, and I don't want to work with the skylight either. So I'm going to put this to 0. Let's proceed. Then this is the environment that we can set up in RHINO, which we don't really need. And these are some alarms, and this is Texas. So the only one I think it's really helpful is the lights, because here we can see what light we're using. Let me again put this back into the darkness of the night. All right, and let's create a first light. You can create a light from here, or with the usual render tools tab. So here, as we already saw, you have here, and you have also here, you can add, and also you have this panel. So let's now use this. So create a spotlight, and I'm gonna go in the 3D, in the 4 views, because this is gonna help me to do it. And I think it's time we like detach the camera from RHINO, so we can work with our view here, our setup. Okay, and I can just save this view. So I'm gonna create a view and go call this Prodviz and just create it. Okay, so we will be able to come in this view anytime. And here we are free to work. So spotlight. With the spotlight, when you create it, you can create a pretty concentrated beam of light, or you can create a really big radius. It's going to be a more diffuse light. So in this case, I want to create a key light, so it's going to be really concentrated, and I will put it where I have my light. So it's going to come from this light. And there you go. That's the first effect, but of course we need to adjust it. And you can also use the other views. Well, actually, it's really important. You use all the views to position the light correctly. So it's going to be at this height. And then you have all these, like, let's turn off the gimbal. You have all these dots. So that's the main aim. And this is the penumbra, or like the fall off area. So again, you can make it really concentrated or like a little bit more faded, and then you can position the entire light. You can position with the gimbal just the aim point and the source. But right now, I think the source is pretty fair, how it's positioned, and also the aim, I think it's good. And so we have this effect of a point light pointing on our car, and also some really neat shadows on the other side. That's the result of this type of light. Also, we can enlarge the main cone, so we can put everything inside that. Okay, let's come back in here, and then we have 3-point lighting, which is like the base technique that you probably want to use. And you can start with 3 lights, and then you can also increase the number. But you can see we have a key light, which is the most important, and then you have a fill light, which is going to compensate the shadows on the other side of the key light. And you have many examples. And then usually you also have backlights to enhance the back of the subject and make it detach from the background or the backdrop. And again, this is for photography, cinema, TV series, much more, and 3D animation. Also, it's important the position of the light on the height, and also the colors are important. So you mix color, you mix position, etc., etc. So we have a key light. We need a fill light. So I'm going to right click here, and if I go in the properties, I can adjust the intensity. And also, one thing I would do is deactivate the auto exposure, because I cannot really see what's happening here, because it will always adjust. So let's turn off that, and try to find the correct intensity for your key light. Should it be too intense? So be careful with that. And you have also shadow intensity, which doesn't really show up in there, but I will leave this to 100%. And then the spotlight radius, this should affect. And you can see also the difference between what's happening here in the render in RHINO and in ENSCAPE. And then you have different fall-offs. And there you go. You can see now the intensity has grown. So these are just a different type of measurements. So I would leave constant. And there you go. So you can manage this better. And in the properties, also in the main properties, we can change the name. So this is spotlight. We can call this key light. So back to the lights panel. Let's create another one. So create. And I'm going to do, again, another spotlight, but you can also use the others. So this is going to be the fill light, and it's going to come from the other side. Approximately, let's see here, we can start. We can try to snap somewhere in there. Oh, you need to always start with the cone. So the cone is always going to be like around the subject. And I want to make a really big cone and point it like this. So let's see where this went. Okay. Be careful that it doesn't like go behind any object, otherwise it will be strange. And of course, this is, you know, too big. You can also click in there and let's call this fill light. And it's going to be really low, like a third or a half of the key light. And then also the color, I want to put another color here. And let's go back to the lights. So fill light. And you can see it's almost invisible right now. So perhaps we can increase it a little bit more. Okay, now that's too much. You need to find the balance. Now they're almost like the same intensity. And now you can see it's barely visible. Let's move on and let's add another light. So this time I will add a linear light just to change a little bit. I'm gonna use this for the background. So I'm gonna like just create a line in the back of the car. There you go. And maybe push it just a little bit up so that it's not like totally on the floor. There you go. So I'm gonna push it up and let's change this into something like red or, you know, something really extreme, like an extreme orange. All right. So this can work as a backlight, but you can, you know, use other type of lights. You can use a omni light, you can use planar light, whatever you want. So when you have like umbrellas or the, you know, soft boxes, we can use a really big cone with a spotlight, or we can use the other one, which is the rectangular light. So rectangular light, I'm gonna draw it from a side view like this. I can snap to the grid. Okay, and so let's see what it is. It's right there, and it's pointing. You can see the arrow pointing from the right to the left. So I'm gonna put it like here, where I have this the actual light, the 3D object in the scene, like this. And let's make this something different. Let's make this well, try to play a little bit with colors. So if you want something, you know, fun. And again, this is not so intense, not as the key light. So we either like put it from a really long distance, or we can just decrease this a little bit. Okay, so we have another light, and then on the other side, I can just copy this, Control-C, Control-V, put it on the other side. So try to play with colors. Colors will give you a lot of three-dimensionality. And of course, we can also use a little bit of environment to improve the reflections on the object, if it's a car. And we can see also here what happens in RHINO simultaneously. Okay, now we have 5 lights. So we started with the concept of 3-point lighting, but you can, expand on that and do whatever you want. Also, once we set up here the scene, we can use this panel to turn off and on the lights. So if you turn everything off, you can see only the fill light, only the key light, only the backlight, and you can fix them. So if this is the fill light, okay, maybe I want to change the color or the intensity. That's the backlight. So maybe again, I want to change the intensity. So let's dim it down, and then, well, skylight, we don't need that. And then the two lights coming from the two sides. So we can isolate and work separately. We cannot use the isolate, which is a feature only for RHINO, as you can see. And also we cannot use the direction light. Direction light won't work in ENSCAPE. So this is something you will see in RHINO, but you won't see it in ENSCAPE. Okay, now I added a couple of more objects, so like furniture and also a human subject, so you can use the same exact lighting for different situations. Now, I want to go back like in a kind of a sunset situation, and let's play again with the visual settings. So again, auto exposure, you can turn it on, turn it off, adjust the exposure as you like. You can change the field of view. You can adjust the depth of field and the focal point. Try to, make it more realistic as you can. I will add a little bit of depth of field here, not too much, and position that approximate right there. And for the image, you can try directly auto contrast, or you can try to adjust the highlights. Maybe they are too strong, so you want to put them down, and the shadows, maybe you want more contrast. Color temperature, hot, warm, depending on what you like the most. And motion blur, we don't need it right now. Lens flare, also we don't need a bloom. You can add a little bit of bloom, and vignetting, you can add it. Chromatic aberration, you will not see it because it's a really subtle effect, but I guarantee it's going to do a little. Sky, well, we can put a white background. Again, we can change also the moon size. It would be interesting, but these are all like for exteriors. And then the output. So in the output, this is where you define the quality in pixels, so resolution. And you can also put so you can put like 2000 pixels times 1000 pixels. So the aspect ratio is 2. And we can export the image, the simple image, or also the various channels like the alpha channel, depth channel, material ID, etc. You can choose a format or how you can export. You can apply the alpha channel. You can choose a default folder, which I create a specific folder calling screenshots. And video, we don't want that. Automatic naming, yes. Video, we're going to talk about that later. Once you set up everything, you can see here the save frame. So that's the actual format that we're going to export. So you can adjust a little bit the frame, moving up or down, or okay. And once we're happy with that, we can proceed with the export. So just go here and do screenshots, and that's going to export the image with the channel. So in the folder, you can see this is the previous image. There's another one. So every time, you can create different effect. This is depth of field channel. Alpha channel here is total white because we don't have any transparent part. But here you can see there is a little corner that is going to be transparent in there. So I can put any background. So this is why you save the alpha channel. And then you have color IDs for the 3D objects, and IDs for the materials, so that you can work separately, quickly selecting them in an application like Photoshop or After Effects, like for post-production. So this will be all for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, please subscribe to the channel, join the channel to support us, go and check our other video courses, and see you in the next.